morning and welcome back to Live at the Legislature. For this legislative minority segment, our guest today is the illustrious Representative Gene Ward. He is the House Minority Leader and represents House District 17, Hawaii Kaida Kalama Valley, and he also happens to be my boss. Rep. Ward, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Kaio. I didn't know I was illustrious. I'm under house arrest in Hawaii, actually, but that's okay.
We're going to talk about a number of things today since we have some extra time. We'll start off with the budget shortfall. It came out recently that they're expecting it to be a little bigger than we initially expected. And you had a call with the White House yesterday, I believe. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Let me paint the context. It's not bad enough to have a COVID-19, but then when you got riots on top of it, then you got the exhilaration of a space control. I call it the trifecta of three things converging at the same time. And it's like people are a little bit confused. It's hard enough to get your head around one of those without the other. But all of this impacts the budget. And that's the question. What are we going to do when you come back on June 15? And a lot of it's going to be about the budget. How are we going to allocate the rainy day funds? We've got probably 1.2 billion in that fund. We're going to kind of adjust where we're going to put them. And those who think we're not helping those who are hungry or those who are hurting, all of those monies are going to be taken care of. It's just a matter of strategically waiting to see. And this is the big question. The Council of Revenues has said we're going to be down 12%. That's millions and millions of dollars. As we get closer to July, when they meet, when we actually know how much money is coming in, July is when all of the revenues have been postponed to. If you're filing your income tax, it's not due until July, the end of July. When you have your GT tax, it's also postponed. So we will never know until July how much money we got. So in a way, Kyle, we're kind of preparing on the 15th for probably another session, maybe August or July. And here's the danger points. At the end of July, the $600 that the feds are putting in expires. If we don't open our economy, and I suggest we open it on July 4, Independence and Freedom Day, because if we don't do that, we're going to go into a bigger hole. We're digging that hole the more that we postpone. So my suggestion is we have a date certain when we open the economy. When that money goes away, we're going to have to really scramble to either get a lot more tax increases, which people will despise because the cost of living is so astronomical already. Or, and my better suggestion is, and it's kind of what Representative Kobayashi said in the economic side, stimulate the economy, get businesses going, take away regulations, and get us back hiring and making money. But we're never going to do that without opening our economy. And if we don't open the economy, we're going to really, really be in bad shape. So the three things we're going to do in the session: allocate the rainy day funds, make an adjustment to the budget, and unfortunately read it and weep what the Council of Revenues got to say in terms of bad news about the money shortfalls. Before they said it was 1 million, I think that was the governor, 1.5 million. The legislature said 1 million. Now it's probably 2.3. And I would agree with Dale, it's probably going to even be worse than that. I think we're lowballing it. So we got a lot of thinking on the horizon. We got a lot of planning, a lot of economic sense to proceed. And I'm not going to minimize the health, but we have been probably one of the best in the world in terms of cases for COVID-19. We've been one of the best to say with the least hospitalization and utilization of our facilities. So we're going well along our way. And now the governor says we're going to open our inter-island industry or airports without a 14-day test. That's probably a good way of piloting what we can do to open up for the larger visitors, Trans-Pacific. If we don't open up, but the bottom line is if we don't open up, we think we're in problems now. We're going to be really in deep kimchi. And I'm not even mentioning $100 million that the rail is short. Can you imagine all those guys getting laid off?
Yeah.
Anyways, there's just a couple of opening comments.
Yeah. Back to the budget really quickly before I transition to what you had mentioned about the passengers. Are state layoffs for state workers and pay cuts something that you're concerned about? I think that's something that's floated around again, potentially due to the shortfall.
The governor kind of put a preemptive strike on the table when he mentioned it a few months ago, I said, hey, you first responders, hey, you teachers. I mean, like, the epicenter of those who are endeared by the population. Uh, I think there'll probably have to be some considerations on departmental cuts. If what the projected council revenues is suggesting, I don't think there's a way we're going to get around it. We're going to borrow probably more money from the feds. We're probably into the 5 billion and up position. We've already actually, we've over borrowed the 18.5% congressional limit on budgeting. So we've kind of filled the puka. And I say it's normal when a family is short money, and when a business is short money, they borrow it to get over the bridge. But when you get over the bridge, you got to have income to pay it back. And that's where my biggest concern is, that we go deeper and deeper in debt, and we let an economy that's kind of still dependent on tourism. And, I think it's nice on farming, as mentioned earlier by our colleagues on the other side of the aisle. But from a government point of view, farming raises 0.05 or a 0.5% GT tax. If it's visitor industry, it's 4.5%. So you get a 400% return by getting tourism up and going, versus you get a 0.5% return to government in terms of that. Plus, agriculture is really tough to compete with on California scales and costs. And let me go on to say we have 6 strategic advantages. Now, these are realities. We don't have an agricultural advantage, even though we got 3 seasons. That's probably the only thing we got. We got the visit industry, we've got defense industry, we've got the Hollywood of the Pacific, the movie industry. We have a very strategic advantage. The sports industry, Dale was talking about baseball from Japan. We could be the sports center of the Pacific. The space or astronomy industry. The great thing about, we're back into the space station with our own engines. There used to be Russian engines that were doing it. We are doing it on our own. And we've got a space force, which is on Kauai, which can be developed. So we've got a momentum in those 6 areas. And lastly, my favorite one, being an East West Center graduate, diplomacy of the Pacific. We have not pushed that to the Geneva of the Pacific, where people who have problems go to Hawaii instead of Geneva.
Rep. Ward, do you see those 4 other advantages? Tourism and military are kind of the big chunks of our economy right now, but the other 4, sports.
Those are the core, exactly.
Do you see that in the post-COVID world, as Carolyn talks about, those being developed even more now to diversify the economy?
Yes, with one condition. If Hawaii is the safest place to visit, and that leads us into what we're going to do in terms of pre-testing. If we don't pre-test visitors, they're not going to be secure feeling on their airplane, as well as they're in their hotel, as well as being in Hawaii. We are competing now just not on sand and surf and sea and sun. It's got to be another S, safety. We got to have safety involved in that. And if we do have a safe place to play diplomacy or football or baseball, people will come. But if they don't have a sense of security, a new kind of variable in the visitor industry, it's not going to work. And I understand now from Representative McDermott, who's the co-author, he's the lead author of this issue called, not the issue, the white paper called Making Hawaii Safe for Travel. In that, we have all of the ways of documenting how this can be done. And now Alaska is picking up and running with something like this. Bob said the other day, hey, they've copied our plan. They're taking it and running with it. Well, I think everybody, when they see what the options are out there, chasing people with temperature gauges, I mean, that's after the fact. Going and doing cohort thing, I mean, that's great. You can do it with different software. But in terms of really getting a sense, and it's not 100% proof, we've got to do pre-testing. White House says, you want to come and meet with somebody in the White House? Get over here and do a test. In 5 minutes, we know immediately. And right now, Gaio, there's so much money involved in it. If they get a 5-minute test to do the COVID with high reliability, as in Adam Smith, they're going to have a path beat to their door. So my sense is we're going to turn the corner with the test. We're going to get tourism going again, because if we don't do it by July, I think we're going to be really in the red ink, of which we are already big time in the red ink.
Do you think the June 16th deadline to to quit the 14-day quarantine for inter-island travel. Is that too late? Do you think it should be sooner?
You know, uh, I'm not doing this for Josh Green, but I'm going to quote him and say Josh Green this should have happened July. It should happen earlier. Should have been June 1. We're about 10 days to 2 weeks behind. With that opening, my point is we probably need about a month pilot the neighbor island issue. And after that, say the end of June, then we can open the economy in July. As I said earlier, July 4, Freedom, Independence Day, get visitor industry piloted based upon what we did with the inter-island piloting. And with that, I'd like to see Josh Green and Dr. Miskovich heading all this stuff up. Those are the guys who know what's going on. You know, I love Doctors Park and Anderson, but they don't get the bigger picture other than the stovepipe lane of what it says in medicine. We got to have lives and livelihood. Suicides are up, attempts 80% this last month. People are rioting as a catharsis. Well, there's a lot of more details in that than just the catharsis. But look, this is a nation, this is a world that's been under siege, and people are busting out. And with all the reasons why they've got one, probably George Floyd is probably one of the best reasons to go out and frustrate with the government. But what we've got to do is to plan the economics of the people as we are protecting their health.
So we have about a minute left to finish out.
Hey, we just got started. What do you mean? We're supposed to have extra time. We just got started.
SpaceX, I believe it was Saturday. It was a historic launching of the space shuttle, first time in about 10 years on American soil. Do you have any comment on that to close us out?
I was blessed to see that. I was inspired when I saw the men on the moon in 1969. It was like, wow, can we do that? Well, we can do it. We can do this and go on to Mars. As you know, I'm the founder of the Aerospace Caucus. Josh Green and I are the co-chairs of the National American States Aerospace States Association. So we follow this closely, and that's one of the growth industries. If we have the political will to do it, we could be doing a lot of these in space tourism. You know, that rocket that Elon Musk shot up will be eventually taking tourists where they go up about 65,000 feet and then they drop and they experience weightlessness. And that is something that tourists here would love to do. Having said that, there's a way out of this. We're Americans. We can get through this. This is a temporary phenomenon. It's going to be on the ash heap of history when we get beyond it. Right now, we got to get civility back into our society. We got to get this COVID-19 totally out and away from us.
Rep. Ward, thank you for joining us today on this extended session for today's Live at the Ledge. Everyone else, we will see you next week. Aloha.
Thank you, and aloha. Aloha.
What are you doing? We have to go. I'm gonna be late for work.
It's Tuesday morning. I gotta record live at the legislature on Alelo. Senate and House leadership discussing what's happening at the state capitol.
So just watch it on the news tonight. Come on, let's go.
Hey, this is like getting the news before it's news. If only I could get this remote to work.
There. Can we go now?
No DVR? No problem. Watch Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. on Channel 49.